I too had moments of doubt, but I did not feel lost. I was searching and exploring, and I was hungry for experiences, and I was continuously writing. That same year, while in Italy for yet another job, I met a man there named Joost Elfers, a packager and producer of books. One day, while we were walking along the quays of Venice, Joost asked me if I had any ideas for a book. Suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, an idea just gushed out of me. It was about power. I told Joost that I was constantly reading books on history, and the stories that I read of Julius Caesar and the Borgias and Louis XIV, these were the exact same stories that I had personally witnessed with my own eyes in all of my different jobs, only less bloody. People want power, and they want to disguise this wanting of power, and so they play games. They covertly manipulate and intrigue, all the while presenting a nice, even saintly front. I would expose these games. I gave him numerous examples of what I meant, and he became increasingly excited. He said I should write a treatment, and if it was good enough, he would pay me to live while I wrote half the book, enough to sell it to a publisher. Suddenly, in writing what would become the 48 Laws of Power, everything in my disjointed past seemed to click into place, like magic, like destiny. All of those various writing experiences, the journalism, the television, the theater, the film, had given me the skills to tell stories and organize my thoughts. All of that reading of history had given me a vast storehouse of ideas that I could draw upon, and my work as a researcher had taught me how to find the perfect anecdote. Even those different, seemingly random jobs had exposed me to every type of psychology and to the dark corners of the human psyche. Even the languages I learned while traveling had taught me patience and discipline. All of these experiences added up to rich layers of knowledge and practice that had altered me from the inside out. In my own very weird and intuitive way, I had given myself the perfect education for the writing of the 48 Laws of Power. The book came out in 1998, and it was a success. The course of my life was forever altered. Now, the moral of this story, as I told the people who would come to me for advice, and as I'm telling you now, is the following. We humans tend to fixate on what we can see with our eyes. It is the most animal part of our nature. When we look at the changes and transformations in other people's lives, we see the good luck that someone had in meeting a person like Joost with all of the right connections and the funding. We see the book or the project that brings the money and the attention. In other words, we see the visible signs of opportunity and success. What really allows for such dramatic changes are the things that occur on the inside of a person and are completely invisible. The slow accumulation of knowledge and skills, the incremental improvements in work habits and the ability to withstand criticism. Any change in people's fortune is merely the visible manifestation of all of that deep preparation over time. By essentially ignoring this internal invisible aspect, we fail to change anything fundamental within ourselves. And so in a few years' time, we reach our limits yet again. We grow frustrated. We crave change. We grab at something quick and superficial, and we remain prisoners forever of these recurring patterns in our lives. The answer, the key to the ability to transform ourselves is actually insanely simple. To reverse this perspective, stop fixating on what other people are saying and doing, on the money, the connections, the outward appearance of things. Instead, look inward. Focus on the smaller, internal changes that lay the groundwork for a much larger change in fortune.
It's exciting to feel like you have control over your identity about how people see you. You're going to reach a point where life loses its kind of flavor, its excitement to you.
The key to the ability to transform ourselves is actually insanely simple.
Don't become a slave to technology. Be the master of it.
We humans tend to fixate on what we can see with our eyes. Stop fixating on what other people are saying and doing.
You know, the world changes at a very rapid rate. And so a lot of problems that people have that they come to me is, I got into this career, these are older people, and it was really great. I mean, you don't know how many people here in Los Angeles in the film business had a little niche job that was really comfortable, making a lot of money, and suddenly streaming came on, they lost it. Suddenly AI come on, they lost it. Horrible. It's a horrifying experience. And so this world is ruthless like that. The pace of change has never been like this in the history of humanity. You can't let yourself get trapped in a career that's going to be like that, right? You have to be flexible. The goal in this world now, in this economy, is having a variety of skills, not like all over the map, but within a certain framework. You've learned 4 different ways you can go. And then when that change happens, you're able to adapt. But you always have to keep in the back of your mind that this whole thing could blow up. You're relying on social media, your TikTok could be gone tomorrow. Suddenly, the social media world is completely different. Well, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you have to be aware of that this could happen. Mm-hmm. Where would I go from there? You have to be fluid in life. You can't be stuck and think, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of our life, because the world doesn't operate that way. I know writing books, when I began in the late 90s, there was no internet really for books. It was all mainstream media, magazines, newspapers. It was hell. I hated it. Then the internet started coming about. And when I did the book with 50 Cent, suddenly you had to kind of market yourself on the internet. Then that completely changed by the time my next book, each time my book comes out, the landscape is completely different. Nothing is the same, and I can't rely on what I did before. So I have to adapt to each new change that's going on. If you're rigid, if you think that I've figured it out, I've got it, in the pocket, I know exactly, I've got the perfect career, you're going to be a dinosaur at some point. You're going to be extinct. The world will move on and you'll be left behind. So be open and willing to adapt and be aware of what's going on in the world and how the industries are changing. And reinvent yourself it's actually, you want to think of it as something exciting. In 48 Laws of Power, I have the metaphor that we're all actors. That part of being a social animal is to act. And people who are really successful are actually really good actors. They know how to perform in front of the people who work for them, in front of the public. They're not being exactly who they are. They're not being completely authentic. They're playing a role, and they're good at it. So you're an actor. Take control of that and realize people are going to judge by how you appear. Reinventing yourself is like becoming someone else. It's like fun. It's like, I'm going to be someone else. It's a new role I'm going to play. My own way of doing that is each time I write a book, I do something very different from the last book. So 48 Laws of Power, I go to Art of Seduction. Then I go to writing a book about war and strategy. That's quite different from seduction, but not really. And then I go and write a book with 50 Cent. It's completely different. And then I write a book on mastery, which is something I've never done before. And now I'm writing a book on the sublime. I want to keep challenging myself. I want to be somebody different. I want to be able to perform differently. So each book, I have to talk about it in a different way. And it kind of excites me because I am a bit of an actor. I have kind of a ham side to me. It's exciting to feel like you have control over your identity about how people see you. And that sometimes you like to mix it up. Rock stars are really good at that. Michael Jackson was kind of the master of it. He was never quite the same person. He was always changing. I like the idea of never staying still, of always moving, adapting, and becoming a different person. If people get to know you too well, if they know exactly who you are, and this is like later in your career and you're in your 40s, they tune you out because they're too familiar. They know who you are. They're bored with you and they're going to move on to somebody else. You know, you want to keep the public on their toes. Like they haven't quite figured out Simon Squibb. He's suddenly coming out with this other idea, this other, I don't know what that would be. Well, we didn't know who he was. How interesting. As opposed to, oh God, I'm so tired of that guy. I've been looking at him for months. Let's move on to somebody else. The world is working against you. It wants you to settle down. It wants you to have an identity. People want to know exactly who you are. But you're going to reach a point where life loses its kind of flavor, its excitement to you. And you want to anticipate that. You want to be fluid in life. You want to be, my last chapter of the 48 Laws of Power is called Assume Formlessness. It's a military idea. It comes from Sun Tzu. But the idea of being formless in life, of being fluid and moving with things, is actually a much more enriching way to experience this world because circumstances are constantly changing. So you want to develop this fluidity when you're young. You want to be open and you want to hold that openness and that spirit of adventure. And so if you're going into law and you're in your mid-20s, just look ahead and just look at the people who are in their 40s and how unhappy they are and how stuck they feel. And go, I'm not going to be like that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to think of a second career I can use, channeling off my law skills, because lawyer skills are actually very valuable skills for other things, for other endeavors, because you understand the law. Therefore, you can, be very helpful. Let's say that you wish you'd been a musician. You can become an agent or something like that because you know law, right? So keep in your mind that at some point you're going to branch off from this one direction you're going in and have a plan and be fluid and be excited. My only regret is that I'm not 23 anymore or 22. No, I don't have any regrets because everything worked out for the best. In Buddhism, there's the Dharma wheel and it turns everything. And everything kind of happens according to the Dharma, which is law. So here the Dharma wheel has spun and now I'm talking to you. That's just the way it was meant to be. So I'm happy. I have no regret. I'm not personally a lover of AI. I think it has a positive aspect, which is it could invent cures for terrible illnesses and things like that. Great. Who would be against that? In Mastery, I talk about how the human brain works and how we have to be disciplined and we have to be willing to deal with tedium. We have to learn. And learning is something that you have to enjoy and be excited about. And I think a lot of young people are getting too goddamn lazy. From what I hear from people in universities, they don't want to read a whole book anymore. They just read summaries. They just get on AI. The AI kind of helps them with their essays. You think you're being clever. You think that, man, I don't have to write an essay. I can just get AI to help me. But you're hurting your brain. So one example is learning a foreign language has so many benefits, right? First of all, it's disciplining your mind. Each language has a different logic. French has a different logic than English. German does. Each time you enter that language, your brain is learning a different logic. You're enriching your brain. It's also making you so that you can go to a place and interact with people who are different in their own language. And speaking another language makes you into a different person. People tell me that when I'm in Spain, I lived in Spain, I became Spanish. I was much more kind of aggressive and masculine, and my hands were going all over the place, It changes you. But now with AI, people are just going to their goddamn phones and they're getting like translations for everything. They go sit to a restaurant and they go, how do I order this? And it gives them the whole thing and they spit it out in their really bad accent. You're cheating yourself. You use it as a tool. It's a tool. It's not, don't become a slave to technology. Yeah. Be the master of it. I use AI when I'm needing a research problem that I can't get it. So I ask ChatGPT. And sometimes it gives me a good answer and I use it, but I select it. We fetishize technology so much, but we really should fetishize is the human brain. The human brain is, if you think about it, 50,000 years ago, we didn't have language. We were these hominid creatures. Through the development of our brain, we created language, which no other animal has. And our brains just exploded and they became, scientists have said, it is the most complex thing in the whole entire universe. The number of neurons in your brain that can connect is astronomical. It can't even be computed. Your brain is a wonder, which is something that's sublime. You were gifted with this at your birth, this insane instrument that no other animal. My cats are really clever, but they don't have that power. They can't, invent things. Yeah, it's great. We invented it. Our brains invented it, but let's celebrate the brain that invented it, not the actual tool.